Welcome to the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board of Trustees meeting on Monday, October 20th, 2025. This is a hybrid meeting, both virtually on Zoom with the link at the top of the agenda and in person at Village Hall. It is 6:30, so I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted, so we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, so this is the public appearances, public's opportunity to speak. We ask that you use 3 minutes to give your comments and everyone be respectful, and we'll start with individuals in the room, which there are none. Is there anyone on Zoom? No. So we'll move on to discuss and consider the minutes of the village board meeting on October 6th. The meeting minutes linked in the agenda as a PDF.
Make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion by Murphy and a second by Wenzel. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Unfinished business, the first up is discuss and consider the RFP process for the fire and EMS study. Linked in the agenda are 3 memos. So the first one outlines what happened, because we had tabled the discussion from last time, outlines what happened at the town meeting. And then the 2 are kind of historical. One is the updates to the RFP process after we had received no interested parties, and the third document linked in the agenda just has the revised dates, which is just the RFP. So I'll open it up for discussion for the board. Otherwise, it is a discuss and consider to move forward with the process if that's the will of the board.
I would say that your last memo probably summarizes where we're at, in terms of the town and such. So I guess I would move that we move forward with option A1, and then also scheduling selection at a joint meeting of the 2 boards on December 8th, and funding option C.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion by Severson and a second by Dahl. Any other discussion on the RFP process? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Discuss and consider communications plan regarding the revaluation, which I believe is Inga. And there is an attachment in the agenda that kind of goes through the next year or so, and she'll present that.
So included in the packet is the communications plan for the 2026 revaluation. That process has started, and we're working through some various steps that are included in that plan. We'll continue working through these various steps as the process continues, and we can certainly add different communication tactics in that may not be represented in the timeline as well. Some key pieces, I guess. The next one is going to be a communication touch point with the tax bill insert. And then moving forward, next one is going to be in May with notices for Board of Review. And then we'll keep going with some other touch points as well with social media. And then we'll have a special revaluation focused mailer at the end of July as well. And then we'll keep trying to have as many touch points as possible with the community so they know what's going on and know what the process looks like and what that means for them.
Any questions for Inga? Any comments on the document? Any changes or additions you'd like to see at this point?
I might just add that it might be helpful to, with social media, talk about the why, at least once a month on social media, just to kind of try to capture as many folks as possible, because I think that's like one of the bigger questions is why is this, and then also kind of the piece about how the equalized value works and all of the things, just to kind of keep dangling it out in front of people.
And I just want to add, thank you for putting this in a nice timeline for us and kind of summarizing all the different and who's responsible and how we're, communicating with the public. Because I think, it's really important people there's a lot of misinformation about revaluations and how that relates to your tax bill and the tax levy. And so I appreciate this like level of detail and given to this topic. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Could I recommend, I heard Paula's comment on the social media. I would recommend waiting until either January or February to start that communication. I'd hate to have there be confusion that this year's tax bill is anyway tied with the revaluation. The board's okay with that. And then it sounded like a monthly post of some sort.
You can always keep it at the bottom of every newsletter as well, right? Or at the top. Otherwise, I believe this is a discuss and consider.
I'd make the motion to approve the communications plan regarding revaluation as discussed.
Second.
Motion by Murphy, second by Severson. Any other comments? Otherwise, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Third, under unfinished business, is discuss and consider ordinance 12-2025, ATV UTV ordinance. And I believe Rick's online for this one.
Yes. So we have a draft ordinance here that would open Gaston and Coffeetown roads to ATV, UTV traffic. Pretty consistent, I guess, with prior discussions. We have put in there some restrictions, I guess, on operators have to be 16. They have to have insurance. They have to use the posted speed limit, but in no event more than 35 miles per hour, have functioning headlights and brake lights. I believe, as we mentioned, when this was brought up 2 months ago, maybe, some of these restrictions are, I guess, just it's not clear what a court might say as far as enforceability goes, simply because the statute says you can open up village roads to ATVs and UTVs, but it has to be in strict conformity with that authorizing statute. And the authorizing statute just doesn't address some of these issues. So, I mean, the real risk is somebody gets a ticket and tries to challenge something because of it, and that part of the ordinance is deemed unenforceable. But we believe it's in line with what the board's direction was previously. But happy to answer any questions.
Rick, I got a question. So you said the enforceability. So some of the things that are in here, obviously the one or the two restrictions are Gaston and Coffeetown. Is that in question in terms of enforceability? So
No.
if we open it up and we're saying Coffeetown and Gaston are the two connecting roads with the town that we're allowing usage, does it open it up that we've got to allow it on other roads? So if they're riding on other roads, that's not enforceable?
That's a great question. So no, that part is not in question. So we've got the absolute authority to open up roads to ATVs and prohibit them on other roads. So it's not an all or nothing proposition. We can just say these are the two roads that they're allowed on. So that part we're solid on.
I would reiterate, as I have in the past, I have some significant concerns about some things that the Wisconsin statutes do not address. And I'm sure there are many responsible ATV, UTV users out there. However, there are some very serious, dangerous things that are allowed the way they're regulated by the Wisconsin statutes. So until those are addressed by the legislature and the state, I can't support opening these up. So I'll be voting no on this evening for those reasons.
If this were to pass tonight, what's the process for the signage then? I know they mentioned that the ATV club was willing to pay for it, but
Right. So basically, we just don't put those things in ordinance that says like a club is going to pay for it, because if it's in ordinance and they don't do it, what's the recourse? So typically that's just done by like a side agreement with the club if they're willing to pay for it. So the ordinance says that the routes will be signed. So it's technically the village's responsibility by statute to make sure that the appropriate signs are placed. But the ATV club can certainly pay for it if that's the desire of the village.
I think Kyla, after the Public Works discussed it and discussed the signage, did they come back to you, the ATV club?
No, I have not had an official request from the ATV club that they would donate the signs or the posts or anything associated with installing them.
Rick, I'm assuming that the ordinance is still in effect whether or not it's signed?
So the roads aren't open for ATVs until it's properly signed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna say, it looks like the big difference between our ordinance and the town is the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit. That seems to be the only one that stands out to me unless I'm missing something.
The ordinance does say that the ATVs have to follow the speed limit, but in no event in excess of 35 miles per hour.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I guess my comment on this is that I'm going to be consistent in my no votes moving forward with the ATV UTV ordinance. I think that our chief public safety officer expressed concerns. We'd be one of the largest municipalities. There's national data that show that I think the risks are just too much for this community, and I'm going to stand by my decision to vote no.
I'm really on the fence about this one still. I do have safety concerns as well. That being said, it's also just a couple of roads sort of on these so-called outskirts of town. That being said, I watched the town meeting when they discussed the connections with Morning Dove and that, and I was a little disappointed in that discussion at the town level. And they also, some people in the audience did say that these two roads were generally useless, so if they think it's useless, I don't know what's the point, but I don't know how I'm gonna vote.
And to be clear, you're talking about the shared sidewalks discussion, not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the town is allowing ATV UTVs. And I think they've asked for these connecting roads. And I think if we want to try to work with the town, we need to start thinking about what's important to the town, what's important to us. And I understand the concerns. Don't get me wrong, we're talking about two roads that extend the connectivity, which is something that I think was requested. I don't think it measurably changes the profile since the town has voted to allow this. So I certainly support working with the town, trying to make these connecting roads accessible to those in the town that are actually using ATVs and UTVs.
I just want to have a point of clarification. Did the town actually, like the town government, any of the elected officials officially ask staff or
No,
us to
it was
consider
town
this?
residents. I was gonna
Okay.
actually bring that up
Okay.
and make that delineation.
I
So
thought
it was.
I thought it was the Lake Mills ATV club.
No, there was a town resident in particular that works for the village that brought this up primarily. So, but it was not the town board per se as a governing body that asked for this. I would just say, I'm still in favor of this. Village of Wanakee has this ordinance, and so again, I think the risk is minimal, and we isolated it to those two roads specifically to get away from any sort of bus or children or parks or that sort of thing. So I would like to just see us move forward. We have, invested time with the attorney to draft the ordinance, so.
I would follow up on your comment, Paula. I too am of support, and I know that the people from the town supporting the ATV were definitely disappointed in the limited, the coffee town. They were disappointed in that. Hopefully, this will move forward, that over the next year, 6 months, that we can take another look at this and reevaluate the safety. And, you know, I've had several discussions with Bill from the DNR, who oversees or has a big hand in this, along with one of the town residents. And they are individuals who are older, who like to go out cruising. So I don't see them as a wild pack of UTV people racing around. And I agree too, Peter. That was one of the platforms that I ran for this position, is I would really like to see the village and the township unite more and work together more. And I think this would be a step forward.
I just have a couple last comments here. Just want to make a point that we spent our village tax resources paying a legal team to codify this and such at the request of, you know, non-village residents. So I'm not sure how much this is going to benefit unless village residents live on this section of Coffeetown and Gaston Road. So I just wanted to point that out, that, you know, our use of resources, you know, this takes time legally, and to put this into our ordinances. And finally, the Wisconsin state statutes take this enforcement and ticketing down to the DNR, and, you know, this is essentially that we cannot enforce, or, you know, we can enforce, but it doesn't go against your driving record to drive an ATV, UTV after drinking on these roads at night in the dark. And I mean, it's just not as safe as a regular vehicle, and it creates dangerous situations on the road due to that. And I know it's very rare, it probably doesn't happen that often, but there are documented deaths in Wisconsin. It's on the rise with ATV, UTVs, and I don't think it's the safest decision for our community. So again, I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
I want to follow up on your comment, Heidi, that the individuals that spoke here and that I've spoke with too do take safety very seriously. And they do oversight with the people that use the ATVs in the area. So as far as safety, you're right, it is definitely in a different wheelhouse for managing and monitoring. Nonetheless, I still have to stand by my vote of yes, because I do feel like they are responsible individuals. And if I recall correctly, they did mention that they would be willing to put up signage as well. I would want to double check before I fully commit to that comment.
I'd like to move approval of ordinance 12-2025, an ordinance repealing and recreating section 305-08 of the Village of Cottage Grove Code of Ordinances.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion by Severson and a second by Buenzo. Any other discussion on this?
Kyla, if this were to pass, excuse me, can you follow up with them and find out if they're willing to pay for this and report back to us at the next meeting?
Yes, I can. I will report back the number of signs, the cost of the sign, and then is this board interested in only having them install the signs, or would you like Public Works staff to install the signs?
I think that the point, I think, Rick, that you made was without signage, you cannot operate legally ATVs and UTVs under the ordinance as written, right?
That's correct. The roads, even though the ordinance says they're open, ATVs cannot operate on them until there is signage in place.
And I thought when we had the club here, they said they were willing to pay for the signs. Was that what I had heard?
I would say have Public Works, right? Just because we want to make sure that they're installed properly and such.
Okay.
Just one kind of final comment. I do understand the safety concerns, and I'm trying to, take a higher bird's eye view of this. I have more concerns in the village of kids who are on motorbikes and electric bikes, and that being kind of unregulated, and some of the near misses that we've heard about, than I do with this ATV ordinance. So I just want to kind of put everything in perspective. Obviously my support is continued from the meeting where we authorized the creation of the ordinance.
All right, if there's no more discussion on this, we can do a roll call vote.
Benzo? Aye.
Dahl,
Aye.
Cal Nelson,
No.
Murphy,
No.
Severson,
Aye.
Stoa,
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to new business. Discuss and consider the special event application from Cottage Grove Chamber for the Holiday Lights Parade. Is there someone from the chamber on?
no.
All right. Other, you can talk.
Yep, so the packet is linked into the agenda, along with a letter from the chamber asking that the village partners with them and waive the fees for the application. You saw the comments from the various departments, which were minimal. Happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I would say that, it would be okay to waive this because I think the ask of our village resources is smaller with the parade route being shortened. I mean, pretty substantially. So I think that's probably okay. I'm in favor of this.
Is there a reason why fire didn't sign off on this? Or is it because they're in the parade?
I didn't receive a response from them, so it may be that it's part of, or they're in the parade, I'm not sure.
Any other questions or comments on this special events permit?
I would make the motion to approve the special event application from Cottage Grove Chamber for the Holiday Lights Parade and waive the associated fee.
I'd second that.
There's a motion by Murphy and a second by Severson. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Discuss and consider the police department collective bargaining agreement is our next new business topic. So I'll turn it over to Matt for an intro.
Thank you. So we have a tentative agreement that we've arrived at, excuse me, with our bargaining committee. Just going to go back through the timeline that we went through. We had a discussion with the board and received direction on negotiating parameters in August, and then from there had 3 different sessions with the union and bargaining, and ultimately the union has ratified this TA tentative agreement earlier this month. And we'll go back a little bit further and just kind of touch on our bargaining team's goals and objectives. So we primarily, there's 6 goals. We wanted to ensure compliance with state law, labor bargaining compliance requirements. We wanted to maximize management rights and prerogatives. We want to, within that, ensure that the police department's command staff, chief, lieutenant, sergeants, have the tools available to successfully manage the department and not be unduly inhibited by the CBA. We wanted to align policies in the CBA with our personnel manual. We want to continue the ability to recruit and retain qualified professional law enforcement officers. This was a main goal of maintaining a majority of our officers at or above market wages. We want to continue to develop goodwill through our bargaining efforts with the officers, and finally enhance precision and accuracy of the language to reduce any potential disputes or grievances that could occur. So with that, and I'll be turning over here momentarily to Labor Attorney Troy Thompson to cover some notable language changes, and Chief Gary is available as well for questions. But from a high-level wage economics perspective, we focus primarily, we were falling a little bit short on those market wages for new officers. So either someone coming in with no experience or at the 1-year mark so start of year 2. So with that, we had a 7, and this is a 2-year bargaining agreement, 2026, starting in 2026 through 2027. We have a 7% proposed wage increase for a starting officer, and a 6% increase starting year 1 officer, or I should say starting year 2, 1 year of experience, and then 4.5% increase for all other union officers. And then in 2027, it would be 4.5% increase again, and that would be for everybody. So that was, with that, we were able to maintain market wages for all steps and made improvements on where we were falling a little bit short, and that's why we prioritized the higher increases for starting officers. So with that, I'll turn it over to Troy for some additional updates. Actually, Troy, if you wouldn't mind, I'll have Chief maybe cover, there was a community liaison officer language that we added to this, and I just wanted to give Chief the opportunity to kind of explain the context there and what the goal is for the future of that position. That is unfilled right now.
Evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So the community liaison officer position, again, looking towards the future of the agency, and truly the focus of that position is to make the inroads with our stakeholders of the community, both industrial, business, commercial, and residential, giving a focal point, and also giving an opportunity for the development of the officers, something else they can work on. Obviously, all our officers are community officers, but this sort of gives us a focal point to try and help prioritize some of the community changes that are coming.
All right, thanks, Chief. Troy?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Troy Thompson. I'm an attorney with Axley Law Firm in Madison. I had the pleasure of representing the village's interests in the labor negotiations with law enforcement officers. From my perspective, the village achieved all of the goals that the committee laid out that Matt just presented to the group. And I've been practicing law for 25 years, but this is the first time that I sat on the Cottage Grove Committee, and I was very impressed with the relationship that the command staff and administrative team has with the police officers, and that's a testament to the leadership in the police department, from my perspective. That, as Matt said, on August 4th, I attended a board meeting to give you kind of an insight into what to expect in labor negotiations, and to be completely done with labor negotiations 2.5 months later is really unheard of. But that's consistent with how the law enforcement bargaining committee has been able to achieve success over the last several bargains. Matt indicated that one of the first goals is to comply with legal obligations under the Municipal Employment Relations Act. That requires the parties to bargain in good faith. Both sides accomplished that, and both groups were well prepared, respectful of each other's time at the bargaining table, and again, to complete the bargaining in three bargaining sessions is really impressive. Number two, Matt indicated that the village strive to maintain or enhance its management rights, so that it can manage the law enforcement team as it sees fit to meet the needs of the community. We accomplished that, especially in the areas of scheduling. As to regular law enforcement officer scheduling, the village changed the normal work schedule from 6 consecutive duty days at 8 hours per day to 5 consecutive days at 8.5 hours per day. And the reason that the village did this is based on its belief that this was a benefit to officer wellness and safety. It enhances communication across shifts, increases efficiency and productivity, in that the officers on that 6th day were getting somewhat fatigued, and so we did that on a trial basis, and the management team preferred to go back to 5 days per week, and the union was amenable to that. As to detectives, the village further expanded the detectives' permissible range of work schedule by 8 hours, which provides the village additional flexibility in scheduling. And although there's no present plan to hire an additional detective, it gives the village an opportunity to plan for the future without the need to bargain with the union over that. So it is preparing for what may come in the future, even though there's no action on that. Next goal was to harmonize or align some of the policies in the collective bargaining agreement with those in the personnel manual applicable to all non-classified staff. And the village accomplished this, especially in the areas of holidays and the health insurance opt-out provision. As to holidays, the village transitioned the law enforcement officers to the village's standard holiday policy of 9 holidays and 3 personal holidays. Previously, the current contract language allows for, recognizes 8 holidays and 4 personal holidays. By aligning it to the personnel manual, it increases consistency, continuity, equity, fairness, and reduces administrative burden in having to manage 2 different plans. As to the health insurance opt-out, there have been significant increases in health insurance, and the village will reward employees that don't select coverage when they have other creditable coverage, whether through a spouse or otherwise. And the police had a slightly different variation of that, and now they've agreed to go on the village's standard plan, which the finance director was very pleased by. Not to speak for him, but I see him nodding his head in the affirmative. Next, from a recruiting and retention perspective, I know in the last bargain and in this most recent one, the village was concerned about its wages and wanted to make sure that it hadn't had any slippage compared to any of the comparable departments that it's competing against to recruit qualified law enforcement officers. And from my perspective, the union was very appreciative of the village's efforts and commitment to be fair with the economics. And I believe that the village obtained some additional goodwill with the group as a result of it. And then finally, from a housekeeping matter, we wanted to just make some improvements to existing contract language where there were some ambiguities that could result in more than one reasonable interpretation of what it meant. And so we cleaned that up just to make sure everybody was on the same page, aligned with what that language meant. But again, from my perspective, this was a uniformly positive experience, and I think a testament to both sides in this matter.
So we're happy to take questions. There is an option for closed session as noticed on the agenda. However, if it isn't needed, that's perfectly fine as well.
And from my perspective, I don't see a reason to go in to closed session, but I'll open it up to comments. And if we get close or we're in the territory of needing to go into closed, we can do that.
I had a question. So under section 20.03, I guess it's on page 25, it kind of refers to the effective date, and it kind of implies it's evergreen. So it says, shall be considered automatically renewed from year to year thereafter, unless notice is provided. So it kind of confused me a little bit because it only shows wages for 26 and 27, but it has that language and there's no further indication of wage adjustments if it fell into that evergreen condition.
That's right. So from a big picture standpoint, when a municipality has a group of employees that's represented by a union, that union relationship continues even after the expiration of a contract. So I've got several matters right now with different municipalities where the contract has expired and the parties have engaged in negotiations and they're at an impasse. And the employer's obligation continues even during that hiatus period where the contract has expired. And the employer is required to maintain what we call the status quo. They are not allowed to make any changes to terms or conditions of employment without first negotiating with the union. And under this existing language, it's very common. It's almost in every municipal contract out there. If one of the parties wants to reopen the contract and engage in negotiations, they have to give notice to the other party to reopen it, and that's really the purpose of it.
So just so I understand, the expectation is in July of 2027, they'll be noticed by one of the parties that we're going to re-engage in negotiations for another 2-year or whatever.
That's exactly
Correct?
right.
Okay. And the other question I had is, down below there's a longevity description. So you've got the two wage tables and then the longevity. So it talks about longevity pay incentive. Is that intended to be a one-time benefit? It's what I
Yes.
interpreted? It's not? Okay.
Yep, one-time benefit for every time a step is
Okay.
achieved.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Does the board want to enter into closed session? I don't see a reason why. No. Okay. Otherwise, it's discuss and consider.
I would make the motion to approve the police department collective bargaining agreement as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Murphy, second by Dahl. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. C, under new business, is discuss and consider applying for a grant. Kyla.
Yes, included in your packet is the local road improvements program, and some information regarding that program on what I'd like to submit for funding for our 2028 streets. If we apply yet, so I have to apply, the application is by November 1. There's 2 different funding dates that we would get approval. One would be April. I wouldn't be submitting until the July approval. By April, if I try to do any projects this year, it wouldn't be a good timing for funding for this year's roads projects. By doing all of the streets that were included in the 2028 approvals that will be continuing to go through from Public Works, we allow some extra time if needed to complete those projects, as the sunset date is in 2031.
Go ahead, Chris.
So if we were to get this, would we just use it as a substitute to pay for those roads, or would we move up the schedule, or would it just free up capital for other capital projects?
It'd be my intent to free up capital. It'd be a 50% reimbursement. So we have to pay up front and then they reimbursed us.
The goal is to always come back with tax impact that's less than what we originally present. So any project that's approved through the FMP, we really use that as a guidance to bring other grant or funding opportunities forward. The default for us is not debt. So that's why this program is investigated, similar with the other state program that was talked at the last meeting. But we could move up other projects to do bigger and more roads in 2028 if it's approved, but future board can decide.
The one thing to note is the limits and the streets are locked in. So the ones that I have included in the memos are the ones that were through 2028, which is why I didn't include additional roads in case we want to end up pushing streets. We have that flexibility.
I was just going to say, no, I appreciate this and that you added Progress Drive, I think is great. So I would move approval of the grant application.
I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a motion by Severson and a second by Buenzo. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Discuss and consider rezoning of parcels from planned business to central business. I think this was Renee and Chris.
Cindy, which parcels were that?
There's a
I'm just
long
kidding.
list. See attachment in the agenda.
So we had talked about this last session, our last meeting, rezoning the corner there to central business to get a more aesthetic look and more in line with something like Old Town. But it's mostly all just laid out in my memo. I also talked about possibly modifying the allowable uses for central business district because right now off-site parking lots in there. Aaron emailed me earlier to talk about maybe we should separate public parking lot versus private parking lot for by right versus possibly conditional use. But I don't really have anything to add other than what's in the memo.
I just have a comment, and I guess I don't know how to go about this. With the rezoning, I don't know if there's anything that, and this might be a question for Rick, of, notifying neighbors or, something with a good neighbor clause. I'm supportive of this, obviously, but I also think that people that own adjacent land should somehow be communicated with, just to keep things continually friendly.
I'll let Rick or even Aaron talk about the process and how the steps that it would go through.
Yeah, so when it goes to a public hearing, neighbors within 400 feet would get notified. This is kind of a unique case too, where in the vast majority of cases, it's the private landowner that's coming to us to request a zoning change. This is kind of a rare case where we're the ones instigating it. So I do think we want to be thoughtful about working with these property owners and making sure they understand what we're doing and why and what it means to them. So
I just have a question because I'm wondering, cost effectiveness and such, because if we're doing the comp plan next year, does it make sense to just do this as part of the comp plan? I don't know. I'm just asking for efficiency and cost effectiveness.
no, because I think this change would be consistent with what's in the plan now. Most likely, if we're the one redeveloping the project, it would probably happen as a planned unit development based on our current zoning, but I think this does kind of set the expectation of what we want the property to be, and it's not a huge effort to make the change, I don't think.
Yeah, and I guess just a comment on that. I mean, your state law does require that any zoning ordinances have to be, or zoning ordinance amendments have to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. So if you were to rezone these now, they have to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. If you change the comprehensive plan after that, you don't have to rezone these properties if for some reason it's not consistent at that point. But I mean, they're pretty similar zoning districts, so consistency probably isn't going to be an issue. But if you do decide that you want to change sort of the future outlook on future land uses on what might be allowed here, you can certainly reevaluate this after you've gone through the comp plan amendment.
Yeah, I think the comp plan amendment next time around, we might get more specific about what we want there, but I don't think it would change the general sense of what type of land use we're looking for.
So if we wanted to move forward with looking into this, we would take action by sending this topic to the Plan Commission then to go through the process of rezone? Is that,
Yeah,
we aren't actually approving a rezone, we'd
No.
send it to the process.
So we usually start at Plan Commission just talking about it. This is what we're thinking about. What are your concerns or priorities? And then we go back and actually draft the ordinance language for a subsequent meeting.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have a discussion at Plan Commission for the next meeting to kind of kick it off. I know there hasn't been much. This has been kind of a ongoing project that of past village boards have started, but we really haven't had any type of visioning or anything to decide what's going to be in this space. But I think this might get the ball rolling on a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and like I said, I do think some of that visioning or next step design work could be part of the next comp plan amendment.
And just to clarify, all of these parcels are in the TID except one, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to give direction to the Planning Commission to consider rezoning the parcels outlined in Chris's memo from planned business to central business.
Second.
Right, motion by Dahl, second by Severson. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. And I just want to clarify, Aaron, you have the direction from the board then to take this to Plan Commission?
Yes.
All right. Then we'll move on to reports from village boards, commissions, and committees. First up was the Budget Review Committee. So we met on Monday, October 13th at 5:30 p.m., approved the minutes, and then reviewed the proposed 2026 budget. And there's a recommendation that was sent out, I think maybe right before this meeting. And we do have, so there's I think one minor change-ish that the Budget Review Committee suggested. And you'll check your email and you can all see that. And then we do have the discussion at the village board budget workshop with this recommendation and any other adjustments we want to make next Monday at 6:30 p.m. And that's all we did at budget review. Any comments or questions? Anything, Cameron, you want to add, or Matt? Okay. All my papers are getting messed up here. Okay. Next is Utility Commission. Chris.
We met on Wednesday, October 15th in a special Utility Commission meeting at 5 o'clock. We talked and approved a revised agreement with Hamburg regarding sanitary sewer in Coyle South. And like I said, we approved that and we adjourned at 5:03.
Any comments or questions for Chris? All right. Library Board. Library Board met on Wednesday, October 15th at 6 p.m. We discussed and considered two partnerships. One, a letter of support for a police station community room, and the second, a partnership request with the Cottage Grove School and Families Organization for a tech-friendly lecture for families with the goal of kind of additional community building, mental health, and screen safety. And that is November 4th at 6 p.m., I believe, in the GRS library. We got a programming report, the trackers listed in our agenda, but pretty active list of programs, so highlighting just really consistent story times, no 4K days, cookbook club. A little trouble with the Pathfinder program. Don't ask me about that because I have no clue what the Pathfinder is. The kind of Dungeons and Dragons equivalent. Working to kind of re-engage and kind of figure out a new strategy forward with that. Our Glen Grove additional outreach in that area has also not been successful, and so reached back out to management there to try and get some ideas on how we can better serve that area. Otherwise, there's tween scenes, Friday morning Zoom beanies, and Saturday story time, so lots of fun things happening. Approved our expenses, and our next meeting is our annual meeting. It's November 12th at 6 p.m. in Village Hall. Questions or comments on the library board? Right. Otherwise, we'll move on to Deer Grove EMS Commission. Peter or Paula?
Sure, I'll kick us off. We met on October 16th in Deerfield. Two large items, I guess, of note. We did approve a job description for a full-time administrative services manager and established a salary range. The commission will be involved in the hiring process with one person from representing each municipality. And obviously the creation of the position and the job posting and all of those sorts of things is subject on our approval of the EMS budget when the official approval. And obviously you were on and heard kind of the comments about our budget process, and I don't know if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I can just jump in and say
Yeah.
that our budget process at the village starts in April and is
Yeah.
approved by the village board in early May. And so I think maybe feedback for next time is that we all take the budget, or we send it out to all the boards, committees, and commissions, just so everyone's aligned with how the village is going to manage the budget review process and when things are due, et cetera. So no, from my end, no plans on changing or extending the process that already goes from April until November.
Understood. Yeah, it'd be, and perhaps maybe if you want to communicate that, or if somebody wants to, the other folks.
So what's the hesitation, I guess, in terms of like the fire commission budget or the Deer Grove EMS budget, bringing those to the board and approving those before our final budget? I understand we want to do it as a holistic, one fall swoop, but the town does it. You know, we had some questions and some disconnects because of the delays, because we're talking about improvements and we don't even have our budget approved.
Yeah, and so to be frank, our budget's in the same process as the Village of Deerfield and Village of Deerfield and Town of Cottage Grove. Where I have a hesitation is that really doesn't allow the public comment to happen. So if you're approving a budget prior to holding a public hearing, it doesn't allow the full process to go. So I always recommend letting it go through the full approval process, budget review, budget workshop, and final adoption, just to kind of allow the proper posting.
And I support that. I wholeheartedly agree. So, I mean, I think that's fine. The other item of note that I just wanted to bring up is that we received a communication from EMSMC, who is our, in essence, run billing firm. So currently, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services put out a notice that we received a copy of, and I can forward it to Lisa for the board if the board wishes to see it. But in essence, Medicare payments are not happening right now. And so Medicare and Medicare Advantage make up 54% of our ambulance run fee payers. So hopefully the government shutdown won't be delayed too long, but if it does, we're obviously going to see a dip in our run fees. The good news is we have a healthy fund balance for EMS, so it's not an immediate concern. But if this drags on really long, then we'll have a different conversation. But that was the only other, I think, big item of note, unless I missed anything, Pete.
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
I just had a kind of comment about the discussion with the full-time position, and I think I appreciate all the due diligence and concern about how we're balancing all of our financial impacts, but I found that it was maybe repeated a couple times that the village is headed sort of towards some kind of financial cliff in a few years. And our data, we just reviewed the financial management plan, and we do not have insolvency or major cuts. We have room in our levy, and I heard that repeated a couple times, and we just went, maybe it's, we're getting closer toward the levy limit, but that's our very conservative estimate. We came in, our budget review committee has come in under what was approved in the financial management plan. So I didn't want our partners to get the impression that we're like headed toward some kind of insolvency or some kind of major, but I do appreciate that we're looking ahead and looking at the full picture of, all the positions that we need to fill, and that our other agencies need to fill. But I just wanted to kind of, that's my reflection after, watching some of it.
Yeah, and that's understandable, Heidi, but I think the discussion really wasn't around any insolvency. It's about being very fiscally conservative or diligent about when we're approving incremental positions and the associated cost with it, so.
Yeah, which we do with all of our departments on an annual basis, so, yep, appreciate that, thank you.
So at our last board meeting, there was some reservation, and I was directed to send some communication to the other municipalities involved in the commission, just with the uncertainty of being able to pass a budget. But it seemed like there was a lot of good discussion and ultimate kind of resolution by the end of the multiple hour-long EMS commission meeting, so I feel like we're in a better place than we were a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Okay. Chief, is there anything you'd like to add about your commission meeting?
I'd like to thank the board for their support, not only our commission members, but the full board for hearing us out there through the budget review committee process. I wanted to give a little bit more information about what Paula had said about CMS. And it's not that they don't have the ability to pay bills, that part of the federal government hasn't closed, but what ended on September 30th was extensions or extenders to Medicare and Medicaid that we would be eligible for, which are 2% for urban, 3% for rural, and 22.5% for super rural, like additional payments that were part of bills that have been extended. So the reason that CMS withheld payment was to not have to potentially go back and redo some work, in the hope that in the first 2 weeks of the month that there could have been an agreement that kind of popped up that clearly didn't happen since we're on day 20. And that they will begin to pay the standard benefit, but that it will result in more work needing to happen once the continuation budget happens at the federal level. The Medicaid program is run by the state, so our Medicaid folks will still have claims processed as normal by the state of Wisconsin. It's just the other CMS folks. So our collections for the month look close to normal, so we'll see how the month actually pans out.
And then if it's all right with the board, I'll maybe communicate back to those partners, but include our budget process kind of as a line in there and seal that up. All right, sounds good.
I think the important thing for me on the budget is that I know the process. I think it comes as maybe a little bit of a surprise that to the village of Deerfield and the town of Cottage Grove that it takes so long to approve, but I know coming into the process that it won't be officially approved till the vote in whatever it is, late November. And generally speaking, that's not going to cause us any grief, but the only time that it causes us a little bit of hand wrenching is when, you know, you'd like to have a position start on January 1. It puts a little bit of a crunch time frame, but we've worked within that without problem. So from the EMS administration standpoint, it is what it is, and we work within it.
Well, I'll copy you on the email anyway. All right, any other comments for EMS? All right. Moving on to reports from village officers, village attorney, Rick, who we haven't seen in so long, so welcome back.
Thanks. I was over in Ireland, so I missed quite a bit of September, but I have nothing to report other than that.
All right. Village administrator with 2 documents for us.
Yes, I have the administrative report, and I've attached a projects tracker database as well that covers all of our main projects, initiatives, and development, and kind of with a high level description, status, and next steps. So happy to, we'll update that every, a couple times each month and have this in here, and happy to take questions on that. But before that, I just want to cover some staff recognition. Public Works technician Andy Hornug completed his 4th year of service with the village. Cameron spoke at a panel at his Wisconsin Government Finance Officers Association conference. Our K-9 handler, Casey Ace, and K-9 Nash were recertified in drug detection, tracking, article search, and apprehension. And then there were some competitions as well that they took part in and achieved two awards, finishing 2nd place in each of those. Assistant Administrator, HR Manager Inga was invited and will take part in what they're calling an Eat and Greets, a government panel as part of the UW's La Follette School of Public Affairs. So there'll be students there that will learn from local government professionals in the area. And then last but not least, our office staff here, including Sarah, Kelly, and Kristen for all of their help to get, we were abruptly canceled on one of our providers within our utility billing service. And so we've had to, everyone's been inconvenienced by having to get re-signed up through the community portal. And so they've been helping our ratepayers get that set back up, and we've heard good feedback from that. So that's all I have, unless there's questions.
With the hiccup in the billing, are we foreseeing a lot of utility bills being applied to the tax roll?
No.
More than usual, because I've heard from some where they're getting notices.
More notices. And we knew there was going to be more notices. So we're down to approximately what we were last year. It is continuing the trend of being a little higher than subsequent. Like, so each year since 2022, just with economic conditions, we've seen some degradation of people paying on time.
So you see the trend as more of a trend than related to this hiccup?
Right, yep.
Other questions or comments for Matt? All right, so move on to communication and other miscellaneous business. First up is consideration of the vouchers. The bills list is linked to the agenda.
I would move approval of the bills list as presented.
And I would second.
Motion by Severson, second by Murphy. Any other discussion on the bills list? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Correspondence. I have none. All right, moving on. Upcoming community events. I have none.
I have one. Oh,
Can you?
So first of all, on behalf of the department, thank you for your continued support and approval of the CBA. It's always great to have. Upcoming events for the police department, again, we'll be taking part in the National Drug Prescription Take Back Day, which will be this coming Saturday, October 25th, right at the Cottage Grove Police Department from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. So officers will be available to take prescriptions. There's some more information on that on our Facebook page of what we can accept and what we can't accept. As well as taking part in that, we'll also be handing out drug deactivation kits for prescription medications that you can use at home, Narcan, and fentanyl drug testing kits, which we all received as part of a grant to distribute to community. So that's very exciting. And then on November 5th, we'll be holding our 4th blood drive. So that information is also on Facebook for people to sign up. So that's all.
I was just going to mention the Cottage Grove Area Historical Society is having a guest speaker next week, Monday, unfortunately during our workshop, because I was really excited about this. But the presentation is, it's about the Wisconsin Crime Lab and kind of unpeeling what, you know, the real science is about and the kind of CSI sort of stuff. It's going to be held up at Drumlin Reserve at 6:30 p.m. And it's free for.
And I just wanted to be reminded of trick-or-treat hours in the village, because I always forget that is it 4 to 7?
4:30 to 7.
4:30 to 7.
And it is on our website
Perfect.
and probably a social media post coming, scheduled.
Perfect. I hope all the trick-or-treaters are safe and have a good time and get lots of treats.
Right. I'm going as Taylor Swift. Surprise. All right, it says future agenda items. Does anyone have anything?
I would love a status update on our emergency operations plan and emergency government committee, where that stands.
And I haven't seen the LEC agenda for next week, but I believe that might be an agenda item there.
Okay.
So it would at least be a part of the
Carried over.
Yep.
Okay.
Then We do not need item 11, which was the closed session for the police bargaining agreement. So we do have one other closed session, which is discuss and consider the village administrator performance evaluation. So I'll make the motion that the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call votes.
Benzel,
Aye.
Dahl,
Aye.
Cal Nelson,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Severson,
Aye.
and Stoa.
Could I get the spreadsheet version of that project?
A printed one?
No, I just want to see like it's so I can move it around.